Major League Baseball is back. We know this, but officially starting tomorrow, teams can have what we're gonna call, I guess, official team workouts, which then signals that it's the start of Major League Baseball summer camp. Because I think that's what we're calling it instead of spring training. We're going with summer camp. Of course, this season is different than any Major League Baseball season we've ever seen. There's not gonna be fans in the stands. There's only gonna be 60 games. You're playing teams in your division and teams in the opposing division of the other league. So like the American League East for NL East teams. There's a lot of different aspects, a lot of different rule changes, a lot of different, I guess, things you just need to know. So I figured in today's video, I'm going to go ahead and tell you everything you need to know about the 2020 Major League Baseball season, from when the game starts to when the season ends, all the rules, all the changes. You're going to be able to find them out here. So as always, if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it. That's a great way to support the channel. Subscribe if you do enjoy baseball content. This is going to be your place, so click that sub button, join the team. Remember to get in the comments down below. If there's anything that I didn't address that you want to talk more about, leave it in the comments. And make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GiraffeNeckMarc, along with all my other social media down below. So let's start off with the absolute basics of the 2020 season. Tomorrow, July 3rd, is going to be the official start of summer camp for the MLB teams and players. People were able to report, they were able to do like unofficial practice, I guess, the last couple days. You've had guys coming into New York, you've had guys Chicago, LA, all over the country. Players are starting to get together. But July 3rd, which is tomorrow, I'm of course recording this on the 2nd, that is the official start of summer camp. The season is going to be 60 games long with a regular playoffs. We're not going expanded playoffs this year, just going straight up normal playoffs that we've seen the last few years. 2 wildcard teams and the division winners for each. Opening day is going to be either July 23rd or 24th. The schedules, the dates, they've not yet been announced. I'm thinking that Friday, July 24th is going to be it. Just seems right to start it off with a weekend. Why start off on Thursday? Although maybe you have like one game that's on Thursday that goes on like national TV just to start the beginning of the season. But we have no idea what the schedule is looking like just yet. All you need to know is that July 23rd and 24th is going to be a start date. They're going to play about 60 games in like 66 to 70 days. It's a lot of baseball in a very short amount of time. Now, let's start off by talking about the on-field rules. So things that you're going to directly see change in the game of baseball besides, you know, the schedule. No fans in the stands. Oh yeah, no fans in the stands. We know that too. But the National League has something that we've never seen in the NL before, and that is going to be the use of a DH in every single game. Not only when they're playing in the American League at American League ballparks, but for the entire 2020 season, we are going to see the National League use a DH, and that's huge. For the last few years, I've been a huge proponent, a huge supporter of the universal DH. I feel like there's absolutely no reason that pitcher should hit. I've made videos on it talking in the past if you want to check those out. I'm not going to go into all my opinions and reasons why, but basically, pitchers shouldn't hit. They never get hits. The 1 or 2 times that you see a pitcher hit a homer, yeah, it's cool, but then you have about 300 or 400 at-bats a year where they're just automatic outs. Not worth it. Not worth the injury. Get rid of them. So we're seeing the National League adopt the DH. It's awesome. It's huge. I personally love it. I know some people are on the fence, but it's going to be better for baseball. You're going to see better games. Now, this rule is not set in stone. They might go back to not having the DH in the National League, but I'm thinking after this season, we're going to see a universal DH in baseball because people are going to realize, oh, this is just way better. Yes, it takes out some of the preparation and the strategy from baseball, but the way that the DH and pitcher hitting has been utilized the last few years, it's not really that much. Here's the biggest rule that people are getting like really caught up on, and it's going to be the extra inning rule. During regular season games, not the postseason, only during the regular season, when you go into extra innings, each inning will start with a runner on second base. Now, this is something that I think we saw tried out in the minors last year, and while I'm not a huge fan of it, because of the circumstances in 2020, I'm completely fine with it. I don't think that this is something that we're going to see going forward past the 2020 season. 60 games in such a short amount of time, you can't really afford to have teams playing these 14, 15 inning games. Honestly, even an 11 or 12 inning game can be crippling to a team. When every single game matters even more than it normally does in baseball, you don't want to have to absolutely destroy a team or even 2 teams because they had an extra inning battle. Let's get the game over with quickly at that point. Starting a guy on second, while it's not the best idea, I think it makes sense for this season, and I don't think we have to worry about it coming back for future seasons, or maybe who knows? Maybe it's going to be like with the XFL and the kickoff rule, and we go, this is awesome. So it's yet to be seen. We don't know what it's going to look like. This hasn't even happened yet. When it does, that's when I'll be able to give you my actual opinion whether or not I like it, but on the absolute surface, it just means baseball's back, so I'm cool with it. So if the 3-hitter leads off the top of the 10th inning, the number 2 guy, the guy in the 2-hole, will be on second base. So you're going to see guys like Billy Hamilton probably make a major league team strictly based on this. Pinch running is actually going to be somewhat important, so that adds a little bit of strategy to the game, because now if you do go into the extras, you put a guy out there who you think has a better chance of scoring immediately, and maybe you take out one of your better players. What do? There's some strategy for you that kind of replaces the DH lack of it. And of course, if you're removed from the game because of this pinch running situation, you're not allowed to come back into it. Now, this rule's kind of been swept under the rug because I feel like everyone forgot about it, but remember the 3-batter minimum rule? The rule where unless you're finishing an inning, you have to come in and face a minimum of 3 batters. So if there's no outs in the inning, man on first and second, let's say the Yankees bring in Adam Ottavino. Ottavino has to face a minimum of 3 batters or get 3 outs before facing them until the Yankees can bring in another pitcher. So if he ends the inning, let's say he turns a triple play because there was a guy on first and second, he doesn't have to pitch to the next inning. But in order for the Yankees to put in a new guy during that inning, he has to face a minimum of 3 batters. I hate that rule. I think it's such a bad rule. Manfred really screwed this one up. I don't even know where he came up with this. It's horrible. I actually think that this is probably going to be the last year that we see it. I wouldn't be shocked, or at least in the new collective bargaining agreement, I wouldn't be shocked that they get rid of it. This doesn't help players out at all. I don't know why they think this is going to speed up the game, why they think this is going to make the game more entertaining to watch. Big disagree. I don't think he could be more wrong, but hey, we've seen them make bad decisions before. They're going to make bad decisions going forward. This is definitely one of them. 3 batter minimum rule, big L, but it's here, so you got to know about it. So there had been talks about like what you're going to do about position players pitching, because that's probably something we're going to see a little bit more this year. And if you got position players that can pitch, they've got a lot of value. But any player can appear as a pitcher during a game. There's no specific rule limiting that. The only thing is that all players must be on the lineup card, must be in the active roster to be used in the game, which is pretty obvious. Like, I don't think that even needs to be said, but I'm going to throw it out there. They must be in that game's lineup card to be able to participate in the game, because, you know, they do have like that 60-man thing and the 40-man roster. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then some other weird like on-field things. There's no spitting seeds. There's no spitting. There's no fighting. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Like, yeah, you haven't been allowed to fight in Major League Baseball to begin with, but this year, big no, big frowned upon. You cannot fight. Also, with like arguing with umpires, apparently you're not really going to be able to get up in their face and start yelling at them, which makes sense. Social distancing, coronavirus, all that. But it's just going to be weird to think about like having an argument with an umpire from like 15 feet away, like yelling at each other. Like, imagine the Terry Collins incident and he has to do it from the dugout. Like, it just doesn't have the same feel, but I get it. Again, social distancing. Like, if I complain, what does that do? I understand how we're getting baseball this year. This is how we have to do it. So these are the cards that we're dealt with, and I think it's going to be fine. Pitchers are going to be able to have a wet rag on the mound. It's going to be allowed to be in their back pocket. Now, this is because pitchers typically lick their fingers, and because of coronavirus, obviously, that's a way that you could spread it. So pitchers are not going to really be allowed to lick their fingers anymore. Instead, they can touch that wet rag that's going to be in their back pocket and use that to help get better grip. I've talked about spitting. You can't spit. Chewing gum is allowed, though. The clubs must provide expanded dugouts, expanded bullpens for opposing teams, and for the players just in general. Got to have more space so that there can be a little bit better social distancing. Players, coaches, umpires should practice physical distancing as much as physically possible. Like, hey, let's not be on top of each other. Again, that kind of makes sense. Okay, this one's weird. I just read this now. When the ball is out of play, fielders are encouraged to retreat several steps away from the base runner. This one's a little weird. Not gonna lie. We're starting to get in some weirder rules. So before, when the catcher came out, remember, like, you only have a certain amount of mound visits. Now the catcher is going to be allowed to step onto the grass so that he's a little distance away from the batter so that he can give signs to the infielders. Kind of a minor thing, but like, it's just weird. First and third base coaches like need to stay in their coaching box. Typically that doesn't happen. You get them close to the bases, you get them running down the line. This year it seems like they're going to enforce that. They don't want players from opposing teams like mingling before the game. You see guys during BP like talking, hugging. They're like, let's not do that this year. Give me 60 games of no fraternizing, which, I mean, that kind of sucks, but we're not at the ballpark, so we don't really see this stuff. And there's going to be no pregame exchange of the lineup card. Everything's going to be done electronically, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, we live in a digital age now. This shouldn't be too tough. It's just more of a tradition before, you know, you hand out the lineup cards to the umpires, but now digitally makes sense. Now let's talk about the MLB schedule. I've talked about 60 games. I've talked about the opening day. Season's going to end as normal at the end of September, but what does the schedule look like? Spring Training 2.0 or summer camp, what we're calling it. There's not going to be any real games. You're going to have inter-squad stuff going on. You're going to have 40 men there, sometimes even 50 maybe. You'll be able to have inter-squad games as much as you'd like, but when playing against other teams, it's going to be very, very limited. Clubs are allowed to schedule up to 3 games prior to the start of the season as like practice spring training type games. They can do it with teams that they're maybe going to start against opening day. Let's say the Braves are traveling to the Mets. Maybe the Mets play 3 exhibition games before they play the Braves to start the season, and then they play their games. I find that a little unlikely. I think that the Mets would maybe just more likely play the Yankees, or you get the Cubs playing the White Sox, trying to keep it a little bit closer. Those games have not been yet announced. I mean, we have no schedule of who's starting opening day, who's getting this and that, but this is just, you know, going forward, something to think about. And every team's going to be playing a regionally based schedule, which I briefly talked about. So if you're in the National League Central, you're going to play teams in the Central 40 times, which is 10 games against each team in your division. And then you'd play 20 games against the American League version of your division. So you'd play the AL Central 20, which leaves 4 games for each team in that division. So that's the schedule. Kind of straightforward, simple. And then the final things that we're going to talk about, transactions, rosters. So there's a 60-man like player pool that teams have to choose from. They're calling it the club player pool. This is a pool of players that essentially could possibly play at the major league level this year. Normally, you just pull from the 40-man, and if you have to take someone off, you do this and that. This year, they're looking at 60 guys so that they can have these 60 guys kind of under control, under wraps, keep them fresh, keep them warm, get them ready for the season in case they are needed. So you're seeing guys like Wander Franco added to this. You're seeing some draft picks from this previous year getting added to this. You're seeing some guys that are super, super young being added because just in case on some crazy scenario, 1, at least these guys get to work out, and then 2, maybe they get used this year. You never know. To start the season, each team is going to have 30-man active rosters. So for the first 15 days of the year, you're going to have 30 guys on the active roster every single game. After those first 15 games, it goes down to 28. And then after those, I think like 14 days later, 2 weeks later, it goes down to 26, which was supposed to be the intended roster size anyway. So for the first month, you're seeing seeing expanded rosters, and then after that first month, you're going to the 26-man rosters. There will also be no expanded rosters in September, so you're essentially getting that expanded rosters to start the year instead of ending the year. One thing to note is that there's no limit on amount of pitchers on the active roster. Normally, you can only have a certain amount of pitchers. On road trips, you're allowed to carry up to 3 extra taxi players that are coming from that 60-man player pool. So in theory, on a road trip, you could see the Rays bring Wander Franco along. You could bring one of these guys who were in the player pool along as an extra backup. They wouldn't be on the active roster. They're just a taxi player just in case someone does get hurt and you need to fill that spot. If you're going to carry all 3 guys on a road trip, at least one of them needs to have a designated position of catcher, which is an interesting stipulation, but it makes sense. You need to have a backup catcher on the road if you're going to carry guys. And the people a part of these taxi squad are allowed to work out with the team, but can't wear uniforms and can't be in the dugouts during the game. Shockingly, there's a trade deadline, and the trade deadline is going to be August 31st this year. I don't know how teams are going to do trades. I don't even know how that's going to work. Imagine getting a guy from New York and you trade him to Arizona, or a guy from Arizona comes to New York. That dude might have coronavirus coming from a hotbed. Like, I don't know how trades are really going to work, but that's something down the line that we'll have to worry about. And September 15th will be the postseason eligibility deadline. So if you're not on the roster by then, can't play in the postseason for that team. The injured list, there's some few changes. 10 days still there, but no longer going to be 60 day. It's going to be 45 day, because of course, if it was a 60 day IL, that basically takes you out for the entire season. So they're making it 45 days now. And then there's also a COVID-19 related injury list. That was so much harder to say. I screwed it up like 4 times. Players can be placed on that list if they have a positive test for coronavirus, if they've been around people who are exposed to the coronavirus, or if they're exhibiting symptoms and requiring self-isolation for further assessment. Otherwise, baseball is still baseball. 9 guys out on the field. You're going to see your favorite players playing. Some guys are opting out. Most are opting in, though. No fans in the stands, which is unfortunate. Maybe, I don't know, in some places they might allow you towards the end of the year. To me, that's wild. Like, hey, 2020, no fans. How about that? Let's just keep everybody safe. But overall, I'm just happy baseball's back. Yes, there's a lot of rules. Yes, there's a lot of stipulations. It's going to be a little bit weird at the start, but I think at the end of the day, when you're watching on TV from the safety of your home on your couch, you're going to be very excited that baseball's back. At least I know I'm going to be through the roof. So I think that's everything you need to know about the 2020 Major League Baseball season. I'd love to know if there's anything I missed. Was there something I didn't address? Remember to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it, as well as subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. I'm going to be talking about baseball all year long, so make sure you click that sub button. Drop me a follow on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media is down in the description down below. And that is pretty much where we're going to wrap it up for today. You guys know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video, as well as this is my most recent upload, so click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I'll catch you all tomorrow for another video.